Hey, a very special greeting to the Veritas Christian School there in Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Fighting Jayhawks. I'm a K-Stater, but that's okay. I always cheer for the Jayhawks, except when they're playing the Wildcats. Hey, 7th and 8th graders, thank you so much for some real good questions, and I'll try my very best to answer them. And we have a special young lady here who's going to help me. And at any rate, she's going to ask the questions in behalf of Rebecca and Chad and Reagan and Mackenzie and Tori and Peyton, and let's don't leave out Morgan. So fire away, Andrea.
All right, how can Kansas help improve what happens to our country as a whole?
Get off the sidelines. Kansas can help our country, our state, where you live there in Lawrence by getting off the sidelines and getting interested. And you can start right there in the 7th and 8th grade. Get involved in your class work, get involved in your class leadership, get involved in your school and how to make it better. Get involved with a teacher who's a mentor that you trust and really work and set your goals high. Remember, in the United States of America, you can climb the ladder of success as far and fast as you want, and hopefully nothing government or man-made will stand in your way. But you have to do the climbing. So regardless of what issue that you are interested in, or regardless of the goal that you have set for yourself in life, or even if you don't know what you want to do when you grow up, and I still don't, by the way, but even if you don't know, why, start the climbing right now. Set your goals high, get involved, get off the sidelines. Don't be one of these people that say, oh, shucks, I just don't want to get involved.
How old were you when you first studied the Constitution?
Oh gosh, let's see, how old was I? I must have been 17 years old because we had a required class called American History and the Constitution. I don't think we have classes now that involve the U.S. Constitution in the title of the course, but we should, because everybody should understand exactly what the Constitution means and means for them individually and our country as a whole. So I was about 17.
When did you first become interested in politics?
Oh, gee whiz. My dad was involved in politics, so I sort of missed him and resented a little bit when he was away a lot and missed the ball games where I tried to play at least. But I think it was probably when I was about a sophomore in high school and I got to go to the 1952 Republican Convention. I know that's ancient history, but that's where Eisenhower was nominated and later elected to be President of the United States. He served for 2 terms. We had 8 years of peace and prosperity, and he obviously saved the Western world from Hitler and Nazism. So he was a great, great president. So I got to see all that process in regards to the convention, and it sort of hooked me on politics. I still remember wearing I Like Ike buttons. I still have the buttons. And and by the way, we are trying finally to finish off the design of a memorial to Eisenhower here in Washington. So it was about when I was a sophomore in high school.
How did you become a member of the U.S. Senate?
Oh gosh, working hard, campaigning hard, and having an awful lot of partners in government. You have to go to people when you're campaigning and look them in the eye and say, this is why I want you to vote for me. And we had been working for my predecessor, Keith Sebelius, who was a congressman from the 1st District of Kansas, the big first. Now that's west of you, quite a ways. But at any rate, I'd had a lot of experience working with him, then working with Senator Frank Carlson. That's even prior to Bob Dole. So it's been a long ways back. If you're going to run for office, you've got to have a lot of support, and you've got to ask people for their support. So they become partners in your campaign and partners in government. And if you've got a good campaign team and you've got a good message for the people of Kansas and you work hard and you have to do it, you have to want to do it more than anything else, chances are you're going to be successful.
My dreams are to be the best softball player in the world someday. When did you know you wanted to be a politician?
I don't know about that softball. There's no softballs in politics. Most of them are hardballs if you haven't already seen on television. Sometimes that gets a little old. I understand that, especially the negative campaigning. So I'll leave the softballs to you and maybe the hardballs to me as we try to get a farm bill done and we try to do a lot of things for Kansas. But I would just simply say you try to be the best softball pitcher you can be, and that involves training, working with your coach, never giving up, setting high goals, and I hope you will be the best softball pitcher in Kansas.
What kind of work do you do in Washington?
Oh, gee whiz. Look at this messy desk. Everything that you can imagine falls under a senator's jurisdiction. We have an awful lot of folks from Kansas who are coming back, and they're very worried about big government and a lot of regulations that they don't understand, and that are causing people to stay on the sidelines as opposed to hiring people and better jobs. So we're working very hard on regulation reform. We're working very hard in behalf of people of Kansas who come in and are asking for help, whether it be a project or whether it be, big government acting as an adversary instead of a partner. We need less government, not more big government. Big things, we have the deficit and we have the debt, and we want an America that I lived in and have lived in and enjoyed and considered it a privilege and love to be the same kind of America for you. And so across the board on what we do to spend less and tax less and provide more decision-making power to the state of Kansas and to Lawrence and to you individually, why, that's what we'd like to do.
First, what are your views on Obamacare? And second, how are you dealing with budget cuts?
Well, I voted against Obamacare, and it wasn't because of President Obama. I'm on the HELP committee, that's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. That was the committee that first took the bill up, and goodness knows it got to be 800, 900, 1,000 pages. We hadn't even waded through it yet. We didn't even get a budget score, and I had 3 amendments finally to prevent rationing. Now that means that I really want to preserve that relationship you and your family has with your doctor. And your doctor should not be encumbered by some criteria or regulation from Washington, and you shouldn't either. So I had 3 amendments to really protect us against rationing. They were defeated on a party line vote. At that particular time, I knew that I just could not support this plan. Everybody wants to help the uninsured, but that's not the way to do it, to impose a federal system that really produces an awful lot of regulations and a lot of costs. And we're finding out now that some of the promises that the president made simply are not the case. That does not mean that we do not have an obligation to replace it and reform it. You can't just simply go on, the way we are now. We later took it up in the Finance Committee. That's where it passed. Again, my 3 amendments failed. I tried again in regards to the floor of the Senate, but that didn't work either. So then came the big question, did you read the bill? Yes, I read the bill, all 900 pages of it, with staff, going through very carefully how it would affect our doctors, our hospitals, our pharmacists, our home health care people, all of the health care providers that we depend on. As it turned out, they got a lot more trouble than they did answers. So I hope the Supreme Court will declare the mandate unconstitutional. If the federal government can mandate what kind of health care that you must buy, the federal government can also mandate almost anything. And I think that's a dangerous situation. Again, we're going to have to reform it and replace it. Oh, how am I dealing with budget cuts? Well, let's do it with a scalpel instead of a meat axe. I don't like the numbers game. Say, for instance, if you're going to say, okay, let's cut $100 billion, that's $1 billion from our current budget as of this fiscal year. If you get to 98.9 and you do it the right way, that's the way we ought to do it. If you do it, 102, you can do it the right way with a scalpel. Be very careful with these programs because they deal with people. And a lot of people depend on them. But you can make the cuts. We've just passed a farm bill that has provided to the deficit over $23 billion. We're the first authorizing committee to do that. And it was tough. We had to cut some programs that we did not like cutting, but we did it in a way where we thought there would be the least amount of harm. So if we do it carefully, I think we can do it step by step. But we have a very big challenge ahead of us in order to get that done. Is that it? Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Best of luck to all of you. And when you get to Washington, when you come back, please visit my office. And there in Lawrence, you can just whip over to Topeka. We have an office in Topeka. We have an office in Kansas City. And both of those offices and my offices here are yours and that of your parents. It's a privilege to represent you. Thank you.